Okay, everyone, today we're going to analyze the zero conditional, which is one of the most logical and predictable structures in English grammar. Even though you first learned it at lower levels, at B2, you need to understand it in more depth, especially how it works with modality, instructions, general truths, and formal explanations. Let's begin with the form. Conditional sentences always contain two clauses, a condition clause and a result clause. In the zero conditional, both clauses normally use the present simple tense. The structure is if, when, unless, plus present simple. For example, if you heat water to 100 degrees, it boils. When I have free time, I go hiking. Plants die unless you water them. These sentences describe situations that are always true, not just sometimes true. The order of the clauses can change. For example, we can say, water boils if you heat it to 100 degrees. When the sentence starts with if, when, or unless, we usually put a comma after the first clause. But when the condition comes second, we don't use a comma. This punctuation rule is important in formal writing. Now let's talk about meaning and use, which is the key to understanding the zero conditional. We use it to describe things that are always true whenever a certain condition happens. This can include scientific facts, natural laws, general truths, routines, or predictable results. For example, if you press this button, the screen turns on. When people eat too much sugar, they gain weight. If you don't water plants, they die. Notice that these are not future possibilities or hypothetical situations. They describe regular, predictable relationships. At B2 level, you should also know that we can use the zero conditional for instructions and rules, especially with imperatives or modal verbs. For example, if you arrive late, go straight to class. If the computer freezes, restart it. If the system crashes, you should contact support. Here, the result clause is not a fact, but a recommended action. This use is very common in manuals, instructions, and technical explanations. We can also use modal verbs in the result clause to express possibility, permission, or advice. For example, if you play, you may lose. If the program stops, you can reload it. If the file doesn't open, you must install the software. This shows that the zero conditional is flexible and not limited to simple present verbs. Let's connect this structure to technology vocabulary, where the zero conditional is especially common because we often describe systems and processes. For example, if the browser crashes, you restart it. When you click the icon, the application opens. If you store files in the cloud, they remain accessible. If you don't save your work, you lose data. When the network fails, the system stops working. These sentences explain how systems behave under certain conditions. It's also important to distinguish the zero conditional from other conditionals. The zero conditional describes general truths, not possibilities. Compare. If you heat ice, it melts. Always true, zero conditional. Versus if you heat ice, it will melt. Prediction, first conditional. The difference is subtle but important. The zero conditional expresses certainty and general validity. Another advanced point is that we often use when instead of if when we are sure something will happen. For example, when you press this key, the program start suggests certainty, while if you press this key, the program start suggests a condition. Both are grammatically correct, but they communicate slightly different attitudes. So, to summarize, the zero conditional is used for general truths, scientific facts, rules, instructions, and predictable results. Its typical structure is present simple plus present simple, although modal verbs and imperatives can also appear. Mastering this structure helps you explain processes, give instructions, and describe cause and effect relationships clearly and accurately, which is exactly the kind of precision expected at B2 level.